In the capital, there was a presentation of the book in English by a well-known British writer and journalist, Nick Fielding. The author describes habitual way of life and culture of the Kazakh people in the mid-19th century through the eyes of European travelers of Thomas and Lucy Atkinson.
Осыдан 169 жыл бұрын келген Thomas Atkinson және оның жұбайы Lucy Atkinson.
169 years ago, British researcher Thomas Atkinson visited the Kazakh land. He arrived in Kazakhstan with his wife Lucy Atkinson. They were the first British researchers of the Kazakh culture, customs and traditions. At the end of his journey across the steppe, they left the travel notes. According to the decision of the Embassy of the Republic of Kazakhstan in the UK, it was decided to publish a book by British author and journalist Nick Fielding. The book, titled South to the Great Steppe, The Travels of Thomas and Lucy Atkinson in Eastern Kazakhstan 1847-1852, is based on the personal records of travelers and explorers from Europe. They have lived in Kazakhstan for about 5 years. This period in the life of Lucy Atkinson described in detail in the manuscript letter from Kopala on October 17, 1848, in which she spoke with a special warmth about the local people and the beauty of nature.
This book is about a journey that took place in 1848. Thomas and Lucy Atkinson left Barnaul in the far north, in the Altai, and traveled for 3 or 4 months south, until eventually they reached the town of Kapal. They stayed in Kapal for more than 9 months, and very soon after they arrived, in November 1848, Lucy gave birth to a son, and he was called Alatau Tamchibolak Atkinson, because he was born next to the Tamchibolak spring underneath the Alatau Mountains. That winter was a very, very hard winter.
In addition to the author of the book, Nick Fielding, the presentation was attended by the direct descendants of Thomas Atkinson, Paul Dahlquist, Belinda Brown, Philip Smith, Rose Whitehead, and their families. They shared memories of their famous ancestors, passed down from generation to generation, and answered numerous questions of participants.
I still have many letters from and to Thomas Atkinson back in the 1850s. I think they were all written. And Nick Fielding, the author of the book, came to my house in Hawaii, and he went through every one of those letters. I've never seen anyone work so hard as he did. I also had in my possession, that came down from my mother, a set of 5 small diaries that Thomas had kept on his trips here in Kazakhstan and elsewhere in the area. And they were small books, and they were written in very tiny handwriting. Sure. To save paper in a time when there wasn't much paper and where they had to carry everything on horseback.
True.
So those diaries I donated to the Royal Geographical Society in London. And so they are available for scholars to use there. I know Nick used them there. But they're available for any legitimate scholar to use at the Royal Geographical Society in London.
According to the writer Nick Fielding, while working on the book, he had already visited Kazakhstan in order to repeat the route by European researchers. The current visit of our country will also be complemented by a similar journey, but in the company of the descendants of Atkinson family, in order to honor the memory of his famous relatives.
I decided some time ago to try and follow the route of Thomas and Lucy and to discover the place where their child was born. It wasn't known at that time. And so I've traveled a lot in Jetisu, the Semirechye, in the 7 rivers, and I've traveled up the valleys of those rivers, up into the mountains. I've been to Sarkand and to Alakul and to Zaisan, all of these places associated with Thomas and Lucy's journey. And now I have a pretty good idea about what they achieved, because particularly for a woman to do this journey on horseback when pregnant, it's an amazing journey.
Issues of international cooperation were discussed at the presentation of the book. According to foreign visitors in the UK libraries, there are a lot of historical materials related to Kazakhstan. A joint project of the two countries will contribute not only to strengthening cultural relations, but also can open new and interesting details of the history of that time. So it is expected that soon a new book by Nick Fielding will appear on the shelves of the country in the Kazakh and Russian languages.